Hey, this is David Hilster. I am a critical thinker, dissident scientist, and if you are not science woke, which I can't believe it, or maybe you are, this is the place for you. There are literally thousands and thousands of scientists from around the world who have been working decades outside the mainstream, who have identified problems, fixed those problems, and who are proposing new theories and models. You won't find anything like this on YouTube, so be sure to go down below and click on the subscribe button, the little bell next to it, and you'll be alerted to when our next video drops. I mean, when you get headlines like this, you can expect Dissident Dave to be on the warpath. Physicists may have detected the remains of black holes from another universe. I thought there was only one, but not according to them. And of course, this isn't the only article out there. So today I'm going to give you a double dosing treat. I'm going to tear apart two at once here, not at the same time, one after the other. Physicists think they've spotted the ghosts of black holes from another universe. These are linked together. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to go at this. I'm going to go at both of these articles, and you want to stay tuned for the end because I'm going to show you something I'm going to be talking about, hopefully in a new video coming up. In my opinion, one of the best papers that came out of CMPS 2018, which is from Ray Gallucci, which is a great analysis of the distributions of galaxies we see in the heavens. And guess what? It doesn't support. It doesn't support something like this. Stay tuned. You got to wait till the end. Well, let's just get into it. It's trying to make it so you read a little bit. The ghostly remains, this is the first article, of long dead black holes from another universe may be lurking in the depths of our own space-time continuum. This sentence is just so full of jargon, of the what I call the intellectual speak of these people, that it is scary. Ghostly remains of long dead black holes. I mean, this is whether they're alive, they're dead, I don't know, but that's okay. From another universe, well, we know there's only one universe. It's been here, it's always will be here, will never change. There can't be more than one. It may be lurking in the depths of our own space-time continuum. Space-time is nothing. It's just something we push around in a continuum, like my father says. Can't apply force. So the space-time continuum, which is supposedly the thing that makes gravity, a continuum can't apply force. Why? This is, again, critical thinkers thinking this, science woke people. Well, my father says, and rightly so, that if you have a continuum, that means it is continuous. There are no breaks in it. If there are no breaks in it, there are no parts. If there are no parts, it cannot bend. If it cannot bend, it cannot apply force. There you go. And of course, this is the conclusion of a new study from a group of scientists, including noted Notes Hawking collaborator Roger Penrose. I think that's a bad sentence, but basically a Hawking collaborator, Roger Penrose. Of course, now he's going to be the guy. He's got to step up to the plate because Hawking has left us. The researchers surveyed the cosmic background radiation, identifying spots that could mark the graves of ancient black holes. It's like this is now becoming forensic science and all this stuff. And you're saying, well, come on, Dave, it could be. No, there's only one universe, folks. But they have something called the conformal psychocosmology, or basically, the idea is that as you read on, that it says the current theory says that the universe will continue expanding and cooling until all that's left are black holes, according to Stephen Hawking's work decades ago. Black holes slowly lose energy by leaking photons and gravitons. Wait a minute, I thought space-time caused gravity. What are gravitons doing in there? You never hear about them. You see them on charts, but you never see like graviton detectors. This is the madness of mainstream physics and cosmology. What are they talking about? We are in a crisis. We've gone from model shift to model crisis, and thank goodness we're in model revolution because we've got newer models out there, because this stuff is lost. So we call this Hawking radiation. So photons and gravitons, which we never talk about, photons we talk about. So eventually, even the black holes in a universe like ours, our own, will die. They don't know what they mean. Of course, you've got to know what it is physically and all that. What does it mean to die? They're just talking. That leaves just a soup of photons and gravitons that we never talk about, but of which have no mass and travel at the speed of light. I need to have my sound effects and shoot myself in the head here. Gravitons have no mass and travel at the speed of light. You know what I think about that, folks? There's nothing in the universe, any force, anything. If you get sunburn, there's something there. There's a physicality of something going on. It ain't nothing traveling at the speed of light doing that. It's something. Therefore, relativity dictates that these particles don't experience time or distance. Do you believe people write this? And you believe people actually, I don't know, do people read this? Or are 99% of us, or 99.99% of us read this and say, these people are nuts, wake me up when there's something real? A universe without time and distance starts to look a lot like a compressed pre-universe before the Big Bang. Oh my goodness. I will tell you, the world of Harry Potter is way more logical than this. They can't even make a believable invention and believable imaginary world. This is, where do you start? I mean, a universe without time and distance? What? So maybe it just starts over again and again. So maybe, hey, do they all sit around smoking wild mushrooms, get high, and then just start like, hey, man, and then like there's no space or time, man, and it's a compressed pre-universe before the big, and then like, maybe, that sounds like a guy like, maybe it starts. I needed my sound effects today. Some people said they didn't like them, but I need them today. Study co-author, mathematician, in statistical analysis of the cosmic something background, which started by ignoring region of the sky where it's over. And they're talking about finding the best matches. They're talking about going through the sky and trying to find the places in the black holes. Scientific community is still far from convinced. The past paper from Penrose made a similar claim, but follow-up research pointed out several issues. It is up to other research now to assess the new evidence. What evidence? Evidence is something that sort of comes at you. Evidence isn't something you go and invent an idea, pretend to find, oh, look, a hole, look. You see all the blue spots in here? Those are dead black holes, okay? And this is my evidence, so I need to pass this to you. Here you go. Help us. Please just help us. That's enough of that article. I can't take that article anymore. Let's go to another article. I'm sure it's much better. Let's take a look. I think you're with me. I'm not sure it's much better. But remember, stay tuned. I've got something at the end you don't want to miss. Something, a positive note in all of this. Imaginary, crazy, unbelievable world, which it is. This story was updated, blah, blah, blah. You have to see the end of this. This is something funny, too. At 9:20 a.m. ET. That's extraterrestrial now. We are not living in the first universe. See, it's already gotten better. How many ways can they make us hate mainstream physics and cosmology? I mean, not even dislike, but actually just want to... I have a friend, Ray Gallucci, whose paper I'm going to be talking to you about at the end of this. He says the same thing. I can't watch Discovery Channel. I can't. I will destroy my television set, and I have to go buy a new television set because I can't take watching all the garbage that they put on there and all the amazing graphics they spend millions of dollars on for garbage. There were other universes and other eons before ours, because when we have ours, it's ours, and the one before it were the other people's. A group of physicists has said, like ours, these universes were full of black holes, unless, of course, they're not, and they're really full of dense objects, which are black holes. And we detect traces of these long dead black holes in the cosmic microwave background radiation, what do they call it? The radiation that is a remnant of our universe's violent birth. Unless, of course, there was no Big Bang. you wonder why we outside mainstream just laugh at this, because it's not like you. Well, we'll find it at the end of this article. You'll see this is what the difference between us and the mainstream is. At least there's somewhat eccentric view of the group of theorists. Okay, because this is the cutting edge, including a prominent Oxford mathematician, physicist Roger Penrose. Of course, the late Stephen Hawking. Gotta hook your wagon to a mediocre a scientist. Penrose and his acolytes argue for a modified version of the Big Bang. We argue there is no Big Bang. And stay tuned. I'm not lying. In Penrose and similarly inclined physicists' history of space-time, universes bubble up, expand, and die in sequence. They got to do drugs. These guys have to do drugs. I mean, I can't see people sitting around lucidly writing this stuff. They really have to be doing serious drugs to write all this kind of stuff. I really think so. With black holes from each leaving traces in the universe that follow. Okay, got a question. If we have a universe that we're in now, and then everything sort of dies out, and then we have black holes that sort of stay, and they go next. How can you have two universes? I don't get it, because then you're starting to mix the universe before and the one after, and I thought universe means everything. And a new paper released August 2nd, Penrose, along with State Warsaw theoretical, argue that these traces are visible in existing data. If the universe goes on and the black holes gobble up everything at a certain point, there are only going to be black holes. Blah, 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 blah. Then we're going to have what happens is that these black holes will gradually shrink. At a certain point, these black holes will disintegrate entirely and said, leaving the universe a massless soup of photons. And there it is again. It's interesting to see, I thought this time, to see two articles talking about the same ludicrousness and who can be. That's what I need to do. I need to start giving ludicrous awards. Who can be more ludicrous than the other people, the other person writing this? The thing about this period of time is that massless and gravitons and photons don't really experience time or space. We heard that before in the other one. Gravitons and photons, massless travelers, light speed travelers. You see, what they do is you got to rewrite that sentence and linguistically. So, don't experience time in the same way. We heard all this, yep. And dictates that mass seem to move through time slower as they approach the speed of light, and distances become skewed from their respective massless objects like photons and gravitons travel at the speed of light, so they don't experience time or distance at all. At this point, some physicists argue that the vast, empty post-black hole universe starts to resemble the ultra-compressed universe. Yep, we heard that again. And it starts over again. So it's interesting. You can see very similar stuff. And, of course, this is really cool. Here's what that means. All the time a black hole spent dissolving itself, Hawking radiation leaves a mark. And that mark, made in the background radiation frequencies of space, of course, it's a frequency of what? Massless stuff? Frequency of space can survive the death of a universe. Is this like Death of the Bachelor, that sort of musical my daughter's always singing songs from? I believe Death of a Bachelor way before. Survive the death of a universe. If the universe dies, there's nothing left, folks. What, this is a universe? I'm hoping you start to get the absolute absurdities of this. If researchers could spot that mark, the scientists would have reason to believe that that CCC, that universe is coming and going and coming and going vision of the universe is right, or at least not definitely. Sometimes they just make me laugh, I'll tell you. Let's just keep going forward before I kill you. Okay. Ask whether black holes from another universe may someday leave traces in the universe in the next season. Penrose said, yes, indeed. So there you go. There's proof. The word indeed, which is an emphasis word used in English, is really saying that I really truly believe this to be true. So that is definitely a good scientific kind of statement. And here's the part that I thought was the most fun. Remember what I said? It was edited at that one time, Eastern Time Standard 9:20 Eastern Standard Time AM or something. Editor's note: an earlier version of the story referred to the CMB as radioactive. It is radiation, but it is not radioactive. The story has been corrected. Now, okay, let's throw out the fact that they talk about multiple universes when there's only one. Let's talk about it that a universe can die, but still things can be left, and that is a not universe. Let's talk about the idea of space-time that is a continuum, what really couldn't apply force. Let's not talk about the gravitons and photons that are massless but travel at the speed of light. And if they're not if they're massless and travel at the speed of light, how can they be anything? Let's not talk about that part. Let's talk about the one thing that no one will ever remember again. I guarantee you, a year from now, you will not remember the correction that this person made. You will just remember another terrible article, and you're saying, Dave, well, just tell me what's wrong, tell me what's right. I promised you something at the end, and I am delivering. In fact, I'll make this a little bit bigger. Woo! And this is cosmic expansions versus galactic density. It is one of my favorite, if not, well, I won't say that. It's one of my favorite, because I can't show favoritism, but it is one of my favorite papers that came out of this year's conference. In fact, I think it was actually written in 2015, but he presented it to us in 2018, and that is Ray Gallucci, one of my favoriteest scientists. He says, I don't have my own stuff. I really can't concentrate enough on that stuff. I sort of like to flit from flat from, but he does calculations and checks things and does things everybody was curious about but never would do. So let's take a look at this and read this. I have a link down below, so don't worry, you can see it. Observing galactic density as a function of increasing distance. They're talking about the Big Bang and and correspondingly earlier times given that that travel time of light, that is when we see things, it's taken 13 billion years to get to us, or wherever they say, should provide evidence as to whether a steady state, non-expanding, or a Big Bang-driven expanding universe is more defensible cosmologically. Working independently, but later discovering additional recent work in this area by Heyman, I attempt to address this question by simulating galactic densities for the two types of cosmological models. Results suggest that the non-expanding universe may be more consistent, or at least less inconsistent, with both observation and expectation. Whoops, my mouse is there. Further, they are consistent with conclusions drawn by Hyman from his recent studies. So what's this all saying? Well, he's saying that he's going to look at the density of galaxies and do some calculations to see, is this really expanding? Because if it's expanding, it expands out and explodes, and then we should be seeing certain things instead of just assuming redshift means everything's moving away and then going mad from there. Oh, it's got to be. So let's go from that one premise. So that's what he's saying. I know you're going to kill me, but I don't want to make these too long. My gosh, it's coming on 20 minutes here. But I want to say that I'll give you the conclusion of this, and I'm going to talk about this paper as one of my videos. I promise you. In fact, this will be written up on sciencewoke.org. You can go there and can't see anything right now, but we're working on it. The idea is if you've never been science woke, we're going to tell you all about these things, and this is one of the papers that's going to be talked about in layman's terms. But let me read you the conclusion. Though much simpler than simulations performed by Heyman, my results appear to align with his conclusion, namely that observations of galactic density with distance suggest a steady state, non-expanding universe rather than one expanding as a result of alleged Big Bang. Now think about it, folks. Those two articles we talked about, what does this sort of impact that they talked about. Everything. Why? Because there's no Big Bang. If there's no Big Bang, we're not talking about a cycle of anything. We're talking about soup. There's so much stuff about that. I mean, the death and birth of stars. I watched on the Discovery and the Science Channel all the time. How can you have the death and birth of stars if it's a Big Bang and it's only a one-directional kind of thing and then it burns out? Hello? Anyways, as I promised, look it up. If you're so technically inclined, because it's a pretty technical paper, look down below, down here, and you will find a link to it. But I will talk to you about it for those people who are not technical. And maybe even we will, I promise you, because I've asked him to do it, he's going to write a layman's article on it. And so, folks, just remember what I say. You don't want to take anything on faith. You don't want to believe anything I say. You want to stay critical. You want to stay thinking. Make up your own mind. I am David D. Hilster. I am your science therapist trying to get you to become science woke. Shake you. Ciao for now.